Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment. Thanks for being here. Terrific. I think we will go ahead and begin. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jennifer Mnookin, and I have the good luck of being dean here at UCLA School of Law. It's really my tremendous pleasure to welcome you to this event. We are here today to celebrate the extraordinary career and tremendous legacy of one of our most distinguished alumni, the Honorable John A. Arguelles of the class of 1954. Now, before we begin, I want to acknowledge that UCLA Law School sits on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tonfa peoples. As members of a land-grant institution, we at UCLA pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives, past, present, and emerging. We have a truly wonderful program today, and we have a set of very special guests. Those include the Honorable Frederick Aguirre of the class of 1971, who will join me in just a moment. Also joining us by video a little bit later will be Judge Manuel Ramirez, presiding justice at the California Court of Appeal of the 4th District. Toward the end of our program, you'll get to meet one of our amazing students, Stephen Babendreyer of the Latinx Law Student Association here at UCLA Law School. Stephen and a fellow student from the association, Ty Rivera, went to visit Judge Arguelles and his family in Irvine earlier this month so that they could learn firsthand about the history that Judge Arguelles has witnessed and has contributed in significant ways to making. Speaking of the Latinx Law Association, I want to take a moment to thank them, as well as the National Hispanic Bar Association, and we have John Islas with us today from the Hispanic Bar Association, for sponsoring today's event. I'm very grateful to both organizations for making this wonderful day possible and for the work that they do more broadly. I'm also absolutely thrilled to say that we will all have the chance to hear from the man of the hour, Judge Arguelles himself. His story is deeply inspiring. He was a child of the Great Depression, born here in East Los Angeles, and he enlisted in the US Navy in World War II. Working on an aircraft carrier in San Diego and preparing to ship out to the Pacific Theater when the war came to an end. After his discharge, he was able to take advantage of the GI Bill to become a double Bruin, first earning a BA in economics and then coming to us at UCLA School of Law in one of our first classes. After 8 years in private practice, he began an extraordinary period of his career as a judge, which included a number of important milestones. First, in 1963, he was appointed by Governor Pat Brown to be a judge of the East Los Angeles Municipal Court. In 1969, Governor Reagan appointed him as a judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court, where he presided for nearly 15 years. Then in 1984, Governor Deukmejian elevated him to Associate Justice on the California Court of Appeal. And then finally, he was named by Governor Deukmejian as an Associate Justice of the California Supreme Court and began his term on March 18th, 1987. One thing to notice, in part because we don't see as much of this today, is that Judge Arguelles enjoyed significant friendship and trust from those on both sides of the political aisle. I'm also pleased to say that he was the first graduate of the UCLA School of Law to serve on the California Supreme Court. And he was also only the second Hispanic judge on the court, after the late Honorable Cruz Reynoso, who, as it happens, we will be celebrating here at the law school in just a few weeks, if any of you are interested in joining us for an in-person event for that. It's certainly no surprise, I think, that Judge Arguelles has also received a series of honors, and those do include some from UCLA, including the 1987 UCLA School of Law Alumnus of the Year Award, as well as the broader campus's UCLA Professional Achievement Award in 1989, both exceedingly well-deserved. Along with being an extremely talented and thoughtful judge, some of his professional legacy especially includes leading a landmark commission on the study of language needs of non-English speaking persons. In fact, thanks to Judge Arguelles's really impressive leadership, California became and remains to this day a model state for interpreter and language access within our civil and criminal justice systems. Today, court interpreters represent a very significant variety of spoken languages, including Spanish, Vietnamese, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, Punjabi, Russian, Arabic, Farsi, and Tagalog. There are now more than 50 court-certified and trained sign language interpreters in California as well. This goes so far to making our systems of justice more accessible to a much greater group of the population. To be sure, there's more work to be done about making our justice system more accessible, but creating systems where trained interpreters were available to so many has been a genuinely tremendous achievement, for which Judge Arguelles in particular is owed a great debt. This commitment to full and fair access to our justice system is one reason why I'm especially excited to share a wonderful piece of news. Judge Arguelles is allowing us to create a new scholarship in his honor, the California Supreme Court Justice John A. Arguelles Scholarship, which is going to be specifically offered to incoming students who are poised to be leaders in the Latino and the Latinx community here at UCLA Law School. Thank you, Judge Arguelles, for helping to get this scholarship begun and for making a seed contribution yourself. We could not be more proud to have this begin in your honor and carrying your name. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome the Honorable Judge Frederick Aguirre. Judge Aguirre is the 1971 graduate of our law school, and he served the legal community with great distinction as an attorney and judge for over 43 years. After 15 years on the bench, he retired from the Orange County Superior Court in 2017, and he now serves as a mediator and arbitrator for Judicate West. In 2014, he was named one of the 101 most influential Latinos in the United States by Latino Leaders magazine. And he's held leadership positions with the Orange County Hispanic Bar Association, the Orange County Trial Lawyers Association, among other organizations. In addition to his time on the bench and practicing law, he's also a historian who has published books on the role of Mexican Americans from Orange County and the roles that they've played in our nation's history. He's also been a tremendous help in organizing this event and just a wonderful supporter of the law school and of Latino excellence in law and beyond. And it's just my great personal honor to now introduce you to him now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean Mnookin, and thank you for all of your efforts that you have made to ensure the success of this project. We created this event to honor the stellar career, legal and judicial, of Justice John Arguelles, to announce the public display at the UCLA School of Law Library of the unique and historical photographs and written appellate court opinions and the Judicial Council study on the language needs of the non-English speaking persons issued by Justice Arguelles, and to publicly launch the endowment of the California Supreme Court Justice John A. Arguelles Scholarship at the UCLA School of Law. And of course, I'm personally very honored to be here today to speak with regards to those issues, being a co-founder in 1969 of the Chicano Law Students Association, which has now been named the Latinx Law Student Association, and a co-founder in 1974 of the Hispanic Bar Association here in Orange County. Interesting to note that Justice Arguelles was appointed in 1963 as a judge in the East Los Angeles Municipal Court by Democratic Governor Pat Brown. A few years later, he was elevated by Republican Governor, later President Ronald Reagan. And the interesting link there, and Justice Arguelles shared with me, was that he had become very, very close friends with a gentleman by the name of George Duke Major, who was a state senator before he became governor of our state, and of course was the one who elevated Judge Arguelles from the Superior Court to the Appellate Court and then the California Supreme Court. There's an interesting note that I wanted to share with you about Justice Arguelles. Here he is, a young practitioner in East Los Angeles. His offices were on the corner, near the corner of Whittier Boulevard and Atlantic Boulevard in the heart of East Los Angeles in the 1950s. And when he went to the East Los Angeles Municipal Court to file some documents, and of course, in those days, we didn't file them digitally as we do today. And in fact, you could even file a lot of those forms and other documents in handwriting form. So he submitted, he went up to the window, gave the clerk, who was a very attractive Mexican-American young lady, his documents. She politely reviewed them, told him that he had to redo them. They needed to be corrected. They were not done in proper format, gave them to him. He said he had to go to the side, redo them, come back into line, and try to refile those documents. She politely but firmly told him again, you did not do them right. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. And he looked at her and he says, in his mind, he said, what an attractive, but a very smart, forthright lady. He asked her out to lunch, coffee. And of course, they married a few months later. And that was in the late 1950s, and had their first child in 1960. We're going to today hear from Justice Arguelles. We're going to see those photographs, those unique photographs. We're going to hear from others who have participated with Justice Arguelles in his legal career, his judicial career. And we're going to also see the display case that will be publicly on display of those photographs and other documents at the law library at UCLA School of Law. And so we'll see those things today. It's my honor to introduce one of the co-sponsors of our event, the National Hispanic Bar Association, a regional president who is a Los Angeles practitioner, John Islas. Mr. Islas.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I'll make my remarks brief. I'm just so honored, and I can say I speak for all of the Hispanic National Bar Association and my law firm of Seyfarth Shaw, in saying that we're really so honored to be a part of today's celebration of Justice Arguelles and his groundbreaking accomplishments, which are very personal to me in particular, in that my father was UCLA class of 72, which sounds like he was a classmate of Justice Aguirre's. And I was UCLA class of 96. So thank you, Justice Arguelles, for all you've done. And I really am honored for UCLA to have included us in the celebration today. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And give my regards to your dad. Yes, I knew him when we were at UCLA together. He was a year behind me. He was a classmate of a very good friend of mine, Henry Barbosa, and others, and also federal court judge Dave Carter.
I don't want to go too off script, but I worked for Henry Barbosa my first 4 years out of law school at his law firm. So it's a small world. Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you. And thank you for co-sponsoring on behalf of the Hispanic National Bar Association, our event. It's my privilege also to introduce from the Latinx Law Student Association at the UCLA School of Law, Stephen Babendreyer. Mr. Babendreyer, would you please give us some comments?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Stephen Miguel Babendreyer, and I'm a 2L student at the law school currently. I'm also the co-chair of the Latinx Law Students Association. We're so excited to be a part of this event today to celebrate the life and legacy of Justice John A. Arguelles, and thank you all for being here. For my co-chair Ty and me, it was such an honor to have met Justice Arguelles a few weeks ago. Hearing his stories of his early days at the law school and as a lawyer was absolutely inspiring. We learned about Justice Arguelles' activism on behalf of the Hispanic community in many ways, both by improving access to the courts for non-English speakers, as Judge Aguirre mentioned, and also by helping to found MABA's Los Angeles chapter. So we're quite grateful to be following in his footsteps here at UCLA Law. In order to make the law school a more accessible community for future leaders in the Latinx community, the Latinx Law Students Association and UCLA Law created the California Supreme Court Justice John A. Arguelles Scholarship. Our goal is to offer a scholarship at UCLA Law that embodies the spirit of the Latinx Law Students Association and Justice John A. Arguelles' legacy. This new scholarship will support entering students poised to make a leadership contribution to our organization and who will pursue issues important to our community during their time in school and after. Having a Hispanic community to lean on during my time at UCLA Law has been tremendous, both to support me through finding first internships and jobs and to get advice from. It's been absolutely transformational for my time at UCLA Law. Finding that community in LALSA has made a tremendous difference for me and my colleagues at the school. And UCLA Law is dedicated to ensuring that future leaders of the law school will have the opportunity to attend UCLA Law and follow in the Honorable Justice's footsteps. Today, we're asking you to give generously to the law school in an effort to make UCLA more accessible to leaders of LALSA and to the Hispanic community. A gift of any size will greatly help in our efforts, so please follow the link in the chat to donate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babendreyer. And yes, we are launching the endowment of the scholarship. And of note, when Justice Arguelles retired from the California Supreme Court, he became of counsel with Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher, and worked primarily in the Irvine office here in Orange County of Gibson, Dunn. And he did that for over 20 years, and he retired just a couple of years ago from Gibson, Dunn. At Gibson, Dunn, of course, he became well known with all of the associates and the partners. And one of the partners is here today to announce the contribution, the gift of a sizable donation to the scholarship fund, and also to give some comments regarding Justice Arguelles' tenure of counsel with Gibson, Dunn for those 20 plus years. I'd like to welcome partner of Gibson, Dunn, Michelle Marriott. Ms. Marriott.
Thank you, Judge Aguirre. As the partner in charge of the Orange County office of Gibson Dunn, it is my great privilege to join you all here today to celebrate and honor Justice Arguelles, who has been a beloved friend and colleague in the Orange County office of Gibson Dunn since 1989. And there are so many members of our office, past and present, who are joining us here today as well. Justice Arguelles has touched many, many lives here over the years. And so we really just want to say thank you to him. Thank you, Justice Arguelles, for sharing your stories, for sharing your incredible intellect and your quick wit. We thank you for sharing your passion for the law and your insightful thoughts on our profession. And we thank you for guiding so many new lawyers as they embarked on their legal careers. On behalf of the firm, I am thrilled to announce that Gibson Dunn is donating $10,000 to the California Supreme Court Justice John A. Arguelles Scholarship at UCLA School of Law. It's very exciting for all of us to think about the bright young legal minds that will be shaped as a result of this scholarship, and we wish all of them great success. It is truly our privilege to give something back in honor of everything that Justice Arguelles has given to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marriott. Very generous donation, and thank you for those very kind comments regarding Justice Arguelles. I know that when he was of counsel, he would always swear in the new admittees at Gibson Dunn. They'd come down from Los Angeles or the Orange County office or wherever, and he'd swear them in before they would be sworn in en masse with others. And then he would also bring other judges to the offices to also conduct the swearing in ceremonies. And this was very personal. So here you'd get a federal court judge or a Supreme Court justice retired to come in and swear you in, a small group. What a treat that was for our Gibson Dunn admittees.
It is a time-honored tradition here, and he made it special every year.
Thank you, thank you. And I think we'll see a photograph of that when we go through our next portion of our program. Justice Arguelles, as Mr. Babendreyer indicated, gave us an interview a couple of weeks ago where he commented with regards to the photographs that are going to be on display, and we will be sharing those with you while we hear Justice Arguelles give an overview, a commentary, if you will, on those photographs. Here is a presentation, Justice Arguelles telling us about those photographs that we will be viewing in this. It's about a 20-minute video, and it encapsulates, it gives a unique summary, visual summary of the legal and judicial career of Justice John A. Arguelles.
Sorry, 1 second. We're just figuring out the audio for that video.
Just bear with us. We are working out the technical difficulty with the video. Sorry for the delay.
I went through Garfield High School, and President James A. Garfield must have been a very remarkable man. Unfortunately, he was killed in office. But when I was a student at Garfield, I would walk into the auditorium, and inscribed across the auditorium curtain were some of his profound words. I'll see if I can recall them. There is no American youth, however poor, however humble, orphaned though he may be, who may not rise through all of the grades of society and become the crown, the glory, the pillar of his state, provided he have a clear head, a true heart, and a strong arm. And I believe that then, and still believe it, and I try to live by that quotation as I urge all of you to do as well. I enlisted in the Navy during my senior year. The war was still going on, and I really didn't look too much beyond that. I was taken into the service the minute I graduated, and I was assigned to an aircraft carrier down in San Diego. We were refitting it to join the Pacific Fleet, expecting to invade the Japanese homeland. And the war ended, however, without being necessary. And then for the first time, armed with a GI Bill, I was thinking of college, and I was able to enroll in the college of my choice, UCLA, in the summer of 1946. And I started out as a pre-optometry major, but I changed major to economics later in my undergraduate career, and hadn't even thought of law school until I got my degree. But I worked for a year after my bachelor's degree, saving up money so I could go back to law school. And then for the first time in the year 1950, I began to concentrate full-time on law school and its demands of me. When I was admitted, I was the second class in UCLA Law School's history, and my class was the first one to occupy it for all 3 years. I love law school. You worked hard, but I never had any problems. The faculty was great. I was a good, solid student, but I wasn't law reviewer or order of the course. But I was fortunate to have become the first graduate of the law school to make it to the Supreme Court, and I'm so proud of that distinction. Well, when I graduated, I had no offers from any law firms, large or small, and so I took the bar that summer, went to the Wicks review course at nighttime and on the weekends, and worked as a swimming instructor during the daytime. And then I took the bar and immediately went to work for Chrysler Motor Company, a swing shift, awaiting the results of the bar, and fortunately I passed. I opened a little hole-in-the-wall office in East LA at the corner of Atlantic and Whittier, right across the street from where I had sold newspapers when I was a 12, 13-year-old boy during the depths of the Depression. But I had no money to hire a secretary, and so every time I got a case, at least at the start, I would type out all of the pleadings on my own portable typewriter, and I would take them to the courthouse myself to be filed. When I first filed my first pleadings with the court, there was a family law matter, and I had to file them in the LA County Superior Court, the downtown court, and the courthouse. And my wife had a good responsible position with the courthouse. And we always laugh about it because we didn't start out on a very good basis. I handed my papers to her and she looked at them and said she couldn't file them because they were deficient. And I said, what? I had done all my work using the only book in my library, the Legal Secretary's Handbook. And I had this clerk telling me that I didn't know how to plead a cause of actions. That meant I'd have to go back to my office and redo them. Pretty soon she had a smile on her face, probably recognizing that I was a brand new lawyer. And she said, well, go out in the hall and make some changes on page so-and-so and page so-and-so and bring them back to me. And eventually, before I walked out, I had my hearing date. We became friends there, and later in life, I became one of her suitors. And she was a beautiful woman and an intelligent woman, and we were married for 56 years. But I don't want to take credit for something that I should not, but I think I'm correct historically, even though we're going back over 60 years. But I think in Los Angeles, it was the first Hispanic Bar Association formed in California. I believe we were the very first. And I believe we called it the Mexican American Lawyers Club. And at the first big meeting where we had everybody attending, and we had enough to warrant a formal photograph being taken, one was taken, and that was the one that I permaplaqued. And as the profession developed and we began to have more and more Hispanics coming into the profession, different Hispanic bar groups began to form. But that, to my knowledge, was the very first one in the state of California. And we just really did not have many Hispanics even on the bench. And now if you take a look at the roster, scores and scores, which is good because it reflects the ethnic diversity of the state of California, and I'm proud of them all that followed me. I'll never forget when I was appointed to the municipal court by Governor Pat Brown, if I can share a little story with you. I was in trial in Norwalk, and the call came through, and the clerk whispered something to the judge, and he said, gentlemen, we'll take a recess. And then he turned to me and he said, Mr. Arguelles, it's the governor's office on the phone. You may take the call in my chambers. And I went into his chambers and sat down. It was Pat Brown on the phone himself. And he was very effusive. He said, Mr. Arguelles, I'm appointing you to the municipal court, and we're both much alike. We both have held public office, you on the city council in Montebello, and me as the, whatever he was, the district attorney of San Francisco County. And he said, we're both lawyers. And now as governor, I think that one of the most important things that I can do as governor is appoint judges. You and I both share that background, you know what I'm talking about. And finally, we hung up after about a 20-minute conversation, and I kind of floated back out of his chambers and resumed the trial. And a couple of days later, I got his formal commission in the mail. The second governor that appointed me was not a lawyer. I had been on the municipal court for about 6 years when that elevation came through. And it was late in the afternoon. I was reading probation reports in chambers for the next day's sentencing. And my clerk came into the chambers and she said, Judge, it's the governor's office on the phone. And I picked up the phone excitedly. It was Ronald Reagan's appointment secretary, Ned Hutchinson, who told me of my elevation. And of course, I was thrilled, and I asked him to thank the governor for placing his confidence in me and to assure that I would do everything to warrant the elevation. I was appointed to different levels of the court system and by governors of different political parties, different political persuasions, but I always felt that I was a moderate and could handle any assignment, try to do that fairly and without any political bias or interest or anything like that. The Chief Justice of California, he called me and asked me if I would be willing to chair a blue ribbon committee to study the language needs of non-English speaking persons that confront the California legal system. And he said there's a feeling that there's a great need for improvement in that area. Will you check it out? And we held hearings over, maybe a 6-8 month period of time in different locations of the state where we would encounter different problems if in fact they existed. For example, just to give you a hypothetical, let's assume that you're involved in a criminal case, and as a witness or a victim, you don't speak any English. The defendant doesn't speak any English. Trial is coming up before a judge that speaks no Spanish, only English, and 2 lawyers that speak only English too. Can you see the problem that suggests? And if it ultimately goes on that way without any help and assurance that there's going to be competent translation, you're setting yourself up for a review, an appeal. What does the judge do under those circumstances? He'll reach out, particularly in those outlying areas. He'll reach into the audience. Is there any person out there that can help this person speak? Well, you don't know what the caliber of the level of the competency of the person that's invited up out of the audience. So what we strongly recommended, and ultimately the administrative office of the court picked up on that right away, and they formulated the procedure whereby court interpreters of all languages in California, even sign language interpreters, they formalized a procedure where applicants for certification would have to pass testing administered by the administrative office of the courts, and the formation of that development is something that I was very, very proud of and was instrumental in achieving, and I'll take that to me with my grave as well, knowing that it'll be a part of the California legal system as long as that legal system in this state prevails. There were three openings on the Supreme Court following the retention election of 1986, I think. 3 justices of the court were defeated at a statewide retention election. So Governor Deukmejian had 3 openings. He appointed 3 Court of Appeal justices, and we took the bench. Malcolm Lucas was the presiding justice. The press and the bar had us categorized as 5 conservatives and 2 liberals. But you know, you're typecast, but it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes in deciding cases, there's a little overspill one way or the other, but basically that was the composition of the court. We all got along beautifully. My family stayed here in Orange County, and I would fly up on Monday morning very early, and I would fly back on Friday evenings, and I'd get delivered a great big stack via Federal Express of materials concerning the next Wednesday conference meeting that I would have. That would lock me up all Saturday and Sunday. But as the only Hispanic on the court, I had a lot of invitations to speak at various functions. And that chewed a little bit into my time also, but I felt very important to honor. And so I was busy as can be on the weekends. And then on Monday morning, bingo, I'm on the plane here at John Wayne Airport at 7:15 or so on, flying up to San Francisco, reading all the way. Yeah, that was my life for a while on the Supreme Court. But after 36 years as a lawyer and a judge, I finally decided to leave the court. And but then I was fortunate enough to receive a very, very nice offer from Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. The Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher state of my overall career was very interesting. They have offices all over the world, in major cities here in the United States, but also in major cities in the European continent and even down in South America. But the firm let me work right out of the Orange County office, which is just about a 15-minute drive away. What a difference being home and being able to work that close to home. Well, for the first 10 years that I was with them, I came up with the idea of swearing in our new admittees. And every year, joining the Irvine branch of the firm, we'd have about anywhere from 10 to 15 brand new associates. And I approached the partner in charge at the Irvine office and I said, Tom, I'm authorized to swear in people. Why don't you let me swear them all right here in our offices in Irvine? And we can have a nice reception for them. I handle the retirement ceremony. We can invite all of their parents and their friends and their neighbors. We can have a reception in the reception area. The people that were so responsible in getting these people through school can attend. We can personalize the whole thing. And it's a lot better than sending them all downtown and going through some kind of an impersonal. And we tried it, worked out beautifully, and it still is a tradition now going into its 33rd or 34th year at the Irvine office. Well, the UCLA Law School is going to honor me with a scholarship which will be endowed by the law school and remain in perpetuity. And I'm extremely honored by that, and particularly knowing that as long as there is a UCLA Law School, there's going to be a scholarship in my honor. I mean, wonderful! What a wonderful way to go into my sunset. But thank you, UCLA, for everything you've done for me. God bless you. And as I've said in the past, it gives me an opportunity to thank the taxpayers and UCLA for enabling me to have that wonderful education. Couldn't have done it without them. And I hope that the current students at the law school know how lucky they are. So can we just finish this interview by my saying, go at it, let's go Bruins.
Thank you, Justice Arguelles, for your comments, for providing us that commentary regarding those iconic photographs. And speaking of those photographs, well, let me just share with you one other point. When Justice Arguelles talked about his dear wife, Martha, one thing that I wanted to say was Martha Arguelles was a certified court interpreter in our Orange County courts for at least 35 years. beautiful lady and very, very talented. And of course, she was one of the first that was certified as a result of Justice Arguelles' landmark study for the Judicial Council that required those certification standards that were codified and set forth not only in our administrative aspects, but also in our evidence code. Martha Arguelles passed away a few years ago, and our condolences to the family. When we talk about those iconic photographs, the appellate court decisions that were authored by Justice Arguelles, that landmark study, it's, I think, about 900 pages that were in that study. Those items are on display now at the law library at UCLA. The display case is right at the entrance to the law library. It will be there for 3 months so that the public can view, the students, faculty, staff, and the public can view those iconic photographs and the material, as I've indicated, and can go in, of course, into the law library, check out those bound volumes that contain, there are 2 bound volumes that contain the decisions that were authored by Justice Arguelles when he was on the appellate court and the Supreme Court, and that study. And those items are going to be on display at the law library for 3 months. We're going to see a short video showing that display. Thank you, thank you. When we talk about the study that was issued by Justice Arguelles and his committee, they met, as we indicated, several times over that period, several months, conducted these group studies up and down the state, because at that time, each of the 58 counties of our state had different standards for certifying, if you will. There wasn't a real certification, but certifying, if you will, those court interpreters, and not only language interpreters, but sign language interpreters also. So it was kind of there wasn't any uniformity, and certainly it needed to get properly structured. And to comment about that study is someone who studied it very carefully, the study that is, and also has benefited from it. Justice Manuel Ramirez is our next presenter. Justice Ramirez first met Justice Arguelles when Justice Ramirez was a community college student. And he was introduced to Justice Arguelles at that point, and Justice Arguelles invited him to come down to the Pomona Superior Court to view cases and to speak with some of the other judges. It was at that point that Justice Ramirez decided to engage his efforts and go towards a legal career. He ultimately became a district attorney in Orange County. He served as a municipal court and superior court judge in Orange County beginning in 1983. In 1990, Governor Duke Majan appointed him to the appellate court as the presiding justice of the Court of Appeal, 4th District, Division 2 in Riverside. Justice Ramirez is the senior presiding justice in the Court of Appeals. He has served on for 32 years, and so he spans a legal career of over 37 years total. Justice Ramirez is going to give us some comments with regards to the study, the Judicial Council study that Justice Arguelles chaired. Justice Ramirez.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to touch bases for just a few moments, if you will bear with me and indulge me, and talk for a minute about the report to the Judicial Council on, and I quote, the language needs of non-English speaking persons in relation to the state's justice system. In 1973, ladies and gentlemen, the legislature adopted Assembly Concurrent Resolution number 74, requesting the Judicial Council to undertake a study to identify and to evaluate at every stage of the judicial process, both criminal and civil, the language needs of non-English speaking citizens and residents. The Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court at that time, a notable figure and a historic Chief Justice, Donald Wright, appointed an advisory committee to oversee the study. And this is the critical point. He appointed Judge John Arguelles of the Los Angeles Superior Court as the chairman of that committee. And it was a very, very diverse group, all understood the task before them of determining what were California's needs for court interpreters, guidelines, certification, compensation, and all of the many complex issues. And the recommendations that they made on January the 25th, 1977, number one, establish the need for standards and guidelines in the provision of language services. Two, define the methods of training and testing court interpreters and of ensuring adequate availability of such services for the users of the court system, justice system. Considerations in compensating individuals performing court interpreting services, which was wholly lacking at the time, and there were no guidelines. So that report was in fact submitted and received without any corrections from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of California. In closing, when I think of Justice Arguelles' career, I see it as a very unique and special career, but I don't really think that he receives the credit he is entitled to or due for his entire body of work. The credit that he is due, especially for the task force that he chaired, the findings, the conclusions, and the far-ranging impact of that report on the entire state of California. In fact, the entire country. The entire country models their court interpreter services program after the program in California. And from the time that this report was submitted, phase 3 in 1977, to the present, that report stands as significant and historic. In closing, I do want to make two remarks. Again, my most sincere and heartfelt thanks, gratitude, and appreciation to Dean Manuel and to Kiki Walker and all of the UCLA staff for working in short order to put this program together. And of course, my deep affection and respect to my colleague, actually sitting in this room with me, Judge Aguirre, someone I've known for probably more than 40 years. And so my final comment would be to share an observation of a parable. And it is the parable of the 3 stonemasons. And each stonemason is given a stone and asked the very same question: what will you do with this stone? The first stonemason responds appropriately, I think, I will earn a living. That's an appropriate response. The second stonemason, when asked that question, remarks by saying, with this stone, I will shape a beautiful pattern made out of stone, a form of art, if you will. a very good response. It is, however, the third stonemason. When he's given the stone, he looks at it, looks up to the skies, and he says, with this stone, I will build a cathedral. Justice Arguelles, with his career from the beginning to his retirement from the Supreme Court and working with Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher, has built a most beautiful cathedral. And the dome of that cathedral is, in fact, in my opinion, this report that was submitted to the Judicial Council, the report to the Judicial Council on the language needs of non-English speaking persons. It is that report that was the capstone, the final piece of the cathedral built by Justice Arguelles. What a remarkable man and a wonderful tribute as we gather today to pay tribute to a remarkable, unique, and elegant human being. To the law school, to Dean Manukin and others, Kiki, thank you all very, very much. I conclude with that.
Thank you, Justice Ramirez, for those wonderful comments. Just as an aside, Justice Ramirez had to videotape those comments earlier because at this present moment, he is sitting as the committee that oversees the application, the submission by the governor of the nomination of the newest California Supreme Court Justice. And that Governor Newsom just recently announced the appointment of Associate Justice Patty Guerrero from the Court of Appeals to that position. And of course, the committee that sits to review that application, that appointment is are three persons: the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, the Attorney General of California, and the Senior Presiding Justice of the Appellate Court, which is Justice Ramirez. We want to thank UCLA School of Law for honoring Justice John Arguelles, a 1954 very proud graduate of our law school. To thank the school for endowing a scholarship in his name and in his honor. We would encourage all of our attendees today to contribute whatever they can to that scholarship fund. If you go to the chat on your screen, you will be able to link in to donate. And we certainly thank those donors who have contributed, and we thank you in advance for making a contribution in whatever amount that you can. It appears that we have reached the 1 o'clock hour, and we will end our session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Judge Aguirre, and thank you everybody for participating today. Thank you for the wonderful remarks that we heard and the opportunity to celebrate and to hear from Justice Arguelles. That was really a tremendous highlight for me. I hope that if any of you are on campus or near campus, you will come look at the displays outside our library. They're really wonderful and worth seeing, and we're so pleased to have this opportunity to just honor and celebrate the tremendous career of Justice Arguelles, and also to celebrate the story of growing inclusion, the still unfinished story of growing inclusion of those from all walks of life, all backgrounds, and the rise of many tremendous Latinx lawyers and judges, UCLA grads and otherwise. And we're very excited to start this scholarship as well. And if any of you are inclined to contribute, we would be hugely grateful for that too. So thank you all for being here, and thank you particularly to our speakers and for being part of UCLA Law School's tremendous story. Have a good rest of your day.